20 years ago, a seed was planted and cared for. We painstakingly nurtured it and weathered it against adversity until one day it blossomed and the fruits of our labor began to show. Today, millions have learned, shared, and been inspired by what our community has produced. We proudly serve 21 million users from 204 countries in 2019. For our 85,000 technical articles, code samples, and videos, our 450,000 forum questions, and our highly anticipated conferences and events featuring keynote panels, live streams, and industry experts and influencers. We recognize and reward members for their dedication to the community. Through content contributions and mentorships, we ranked number 2,620 in the world with a reach of millions across our social media channels. Thanks to you, our global community of software and data developers grows stronger each day. For more information, visit us at CSharpCorner.com.
Good morning and welcome to this another episode of Growth Mindset Live Show. My name is Mahesh Chand, founder of CSharpCorner and host of this Growth Mindset Show. It's every Friday. I'm sure some of you already know that. Today we got very exciting show, mostly for our CSharpCorner authors and MVPs. And it's actually for everybody who writes content for online, either it's articles, blogs, you have your own blog, or you write on C Sharp Corner or other communities, or even LinkedIn. And today we are going to talk about some very insightful tips and tricks, what you should be thinking and paying attention to when writing articles. So welcome to the show. I see a bunch of people are joining us. Deepak, welcome to the show. Venkat, MD, Dance Plus, welcome to the show. Dance Plus, Vishal, welcome to the show. So looks like some people, if you are joining us first time, you obviously welcome the show. But as I talk about in every show, this show is for you. Rikam, welcome to the show. Good to see Rajnikant. Looks like our regular MVPs and C Sharp Corner members, community members are joining us. Welcome to the show. It's going to be exciting. Yeah. So as I said, this show is for you. And we want to make sure that you get something out of it. And definitely answer your questions and help figure out how to write better content. And in year 2023 we are going to bring more of these shows, live shows, where we focus more on our C Sharp Corner MVPs and also members, and how do we make them better in their professional and personal growth, as well as writing and speaking and so on and so forth. So if you guys have any ideas or any comments or any feedback, feel free to chime in. Just post your comment, and in the second half of this show we will take some of your comments. Anoop, welcome to the show. Shresh, welcome to the show. It looks like it's going to be pretty exciting. A lot of people joining us from YouTube. I don't see LinkedIn. Oh, by the way, we are also live streaming this on LinkedIn. So if you are on LinkedIn, what I will do is I'll also actually reshare this on my LinkedIn before it's too late, so more people know that this is being streamed. Also, maybe Simon, you and C Sharp Corner team can reshare that somehow, so people on LinkedIn know that it's live now. That'll be good. So I'm going to repost this. Just a second. We are live now. Okay, sounds good. Looks like 17 people joining us from LinkedIn. That's pretty good. Very good. All right, so let me bring our guest today. Mohammed, welcome to the show. Chris. Hey, Chris, good morning. How are you?
Hey, doing great.
All right, we're back.
You don't have as pretty a day as you did 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah. So, so I was telling our audience, looks like we got a pretty good number of audience watching today. So today what we really want to do is, Rikam, we are live streaming this on LinkedIn actually. So anybody who is on LinkedIn, similar to YouTube, LinkedIn has they have been working on this live streaming. So we are live streaming these shows on LinkedIn as well. So today we are going to talk about content and how to write a good content, not just for the readers but also for the search engines, right? Because
Right.
writing content for search engines get more traffic on your content. And it doesn't matter if you're writing for your own personal blog or for C Sharp Corner or for LinkedIn, doesn't matter where you write it, but there are some things to follow and standard that will help your content actually maybe first liked by search engines, and then maybe liked by your audience. So Rajkumar, welcome to the show. Sounds good. All right. So Chris, you want to start with something like, let's start with the C Sharp Corner authors, right? You see on the content on C Sharp Corner.
Right.
Um, so what is you have seen so far when people are writing it, because a lot of our writers are programmers, they're software
Hmm.
developers. So anything they write, either they are learning something new, they write about it, or
Right.
they're working on their existing project.
Right. So I think our niche in software development is kind of unique because a lot of people who publish content around SEO and content marketing and things like that are not thinking about technical things like we are. But one of the things, I guess, I could go all the way back to college when I was doing my master's thesis and publishing research papers. Uh, I had to go through an editorial review for every single thing. If you've ever done a master's degree, you know you have when you do a thesis, you have several professors that go through and critique everything you've written, and the grammar stands out the most to me was a big problem with what I was writing. The actual research and stuff I was doing was fine. It was just how was I writing it well. And personally, I guess I had a disconnect of does it really matter how well I've written the English per se to how people perceive it? And it absolutely is. And I've noticed it as I've become more integrated into, I guess, writing stuff online and dealing with people who do also write. And there is a second or next level up always. There are so many really skilled and gifted authors out there that are also technical, but they write in a way that it's approachable. And there's a difference between, say, writing a specification or a white paper and writing something that people want to read. And it's also, I think, a difference in knowing what people want or need and trying to match what you are producing or creating so that people find you. C Sharp Corner is interesting because when you write an article and have it published on the platform, we feature it on the homepage, and that will drive a lot of views in the first week or so of an article. But a lot of articles, whether it's on C Sharp Corner or elsewhere, you may see that initial pop, and then you see a complete drop off and almost no traffic for months or years. And that's because you don't have this ongoing effect, so to speak. You want to try to get the search traffic because people are still looking for that content, but you're not on the homepage of C Sharp Corner anymore, where people are like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. You go check that out." You're trying to grab those people who are always constantly looking for whatever problem you've solved or whatever tip or trick you've created to make their life easier. Those kind of things, and that's where organic search optimization comes into play. And there are a lot of technical things to it. Some of it comes down to the platform, which is what we at C Sharp Corner are working to always kind of keep improved and up to date and everything as much as we possibly can. But a lot of it comes down to how you actually write your content, how you design an article. And this could
Yep.
even translate over to doing videos too. A lot of these principles correlate to doing a video.
Yeah.
So,
So on that topic, right? So let's say I'm a programmer, I'm a developer, I'm working at my job.
mhm,
I'm writing code every day, 8 hours a day, 9 hours, sometimes 10 hours. There's, some guys work more.
right. Oh, yeah.
Then,
I've had many 15, 20-hour days. Yes.
right, exactly, right. So I write because I learned something cool and I want to share this cool tip with developers, my other fellows, right? I'm
Hmm.
not really going to learn a how to better write English. That's not my job, and I have no interest in that. So what we can do is, what are the Joe? Let's talk about, at least let's give five easy tips for
Okay.
our audience today.
Well, let me
Where
kind of
they
share some
can,
things while I'm
yeah,
talking here.
yeah.
Uh, share screen.
So the point here is that, I'm not going to sit down and learn how to better write or more content, because that's not what I do. All I want to do is, if you can save me time quickly,
Hmm.
and just how can I improve my existing article or code snippet I want to share,
Right.
so it is better ranked in search engines and I get
So
more
a few years ago,
Yep.
I realized I wasn't getting as much traffic on my site as I thought I was, and so I kind of set on this intentional effort to improve the traffic on my site. And this is a graph of basically the first year. So you can see there was this like this steady increase over time, and that's pretty significant. I think I got up to as much as 500,000 page views of
Yeah.
real people reading real articles
Yeah.
in a given month, um, which for an individual person and a blog in our niche, I think is pretty darn good. Um, so I just wanted to show first. I wanted to show that this stuff actually works. This effort actually makes a difference, and you can see the chart there is actually that year I made the effort over the previous year. So you can see that that's a massive gap when you got down to when I first started. I think it was in April time frame.
Yep.
So the first thing I tell people to do is you have to know what to write. Right? You can create stuff that's interesting and stuff, and that's fine, and that's perfectly fine. Um, but people may not be looking for it. Now, if you have an audience like David McWhorter has a fantastic fan following on CSharpCorner, so if he writes something, a lot of people will read what he's going to write. You may follow a channel on YouTube or whatever, and the same kind of effect, right? Um, so the first place I tell people to start, I have paid tools that give me deeper insight, but you can start for free and get a lot of what I'm looking at pretty quickly. So I pulled this one example. I'm gonna pick on this a recent example on C Sharp Corner a little bit about CSS gradients. So I'm a web developer, so CSS gradients are something I'm actually
So there is
interested
an article on C Sharp Corner,
in.
and that's where you're gonna. Okay, it's called what's
Well,
title?
it's
Yeah.
one that caught my eye as something we can make better, right?
Yep.
Uh, okay, so the first thing I go do is I go to Google and Bing and I type in what I think is the top keyword, in this case, CSS gradient. Okay. Well, the first thing you notice when you go to a search engine, we all see this because this has been going on for years, a decade or more, is they've got the auto suggest stuff coming down. Well, those are search terms that people really look for. So right there, I can look at that and go, I've got a great article with at least 8 to 9 sub headlines automatically that I can write that will match what people are looking for. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. If I'm going to write an article about CSS gradients, I'm going to try to cover all of these topics in that article, one way or another. Um, so that's the first place I'm going to go. There are other things once you get to the actual search page. I'm going to have to bounce through this a little bit. Okay, you can once you get there, first thing you're going to see what are the actual results. This one's for ASP.NET 7.0 because I was helping somebody with one of those articles recently, and one thing I can tell looking at the results here is there's still chaos for this topic. There's nothing that's settled yet because this is relatively new. This is the new release of .NET. Okay, so there's no real clear signal of what kind of content to write. So that gives me a clue that I can kind of own this space, if you will, because the headlines on each of these things are kind of all over the place. So there's room to kind of settle in and kind of try to be what eventually falls into being the authoritative post on this. For something like ASP.NET, I'm just going to be blunt. It's going to be very hard to outrank Microsoft pages because everybody links to those pages. But you can write better content, and you may be able to earn something what we call a snippet or something like that to actually bump you ahead of them. But that's level 2. Here was a funny thing I thought too. If you go to the news tab, like this is the Bing results for ASP.NET, not a single one of these had to do with ASP.NET. That also tells me that the search engines don't understand this search term just yet, because they
Because
got sports scores and everything in here. Yeah.
there's probably no news published on that .NET 7.
See, and that's what I was looking for. I was actually looking to see if Microsoft had press releases that I could pull information from to make the
No,
article better. Yeah.
no, they don't publish news. They publish everything as a blog. So search engines are dumb. They don't know
But
that news.
a lot of
Yeah.
times companies will release a press release around a new product version or something like that. So I was trying to see. I took this screenshot because I thought this is interesting. It really says that Microsoft hasn't even identified that topic yet and know what to post. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Another thing to look for, and this is on basically every search result you see, unless it's a super refined niche, like there's like 10 people a month maybe searching for something, you may not see it. But um, I was looking for stuff about, like, I decided to pull up stuff for Tesla because I think they just had their earnings report or something. So, and the people also asked, these are real questions people are typing into the search engines on that are related to that topic. Questions are something key you need to include in your content. If you know what questions are common on your topic, try to actually quote those questions exactly somewhere in your copy. It could be a subheading, it could be a list item with a quick kind of FAQ kind of answer around it, or it could just be embedded in a paragraph. But somewhere in your content, try to answer these questions because that also helps you rank better. The other thing that the search engines try to do is they look for context around what you're writing. So if you're writing like an ASP.NET 7.0 article, you want to write context about web development in there, and how does it relate to common web development things. You might want to sprinkle some of that in there. So in the case of a Tesla, you definitely want to talk about cars and tires or something like that, electric engines, and kind of sprinkle those kind of things in.
Let's focus on developer content, right?
Right. Well, I mean, these are just things that I found, like, looking for
Okay.
stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'd focus on progressive web apps, right?
Yeah.
So something that you usually find at the bottom of the search results on both Google and Bing are related searches. Okay, and so these are also similar to that search suggestion as you're typing it in.
Yeah.
Once you've got it in there, these are other terms that they think are tightly coupled to it. Again, additional topics you can include in your article. And another thing you can think about when you're looking at all these, maybe some of these topics are a little bit big to put into your article. Maybe write another article a few days later and cross-link the two, and go through the same process again. So that's always a great way to kind of start building a series of content. Just what are people looking for? If it's too big, and so forth and so on. So these are great ways for you to find what are the keyword searches people are writing for or looking for. And that way
Yep.
you can make your content match that. It doesn't tell you what the search volumes of things are, but I don't think that's necessarily important. In the software development world, there are a massive amount of what I call small, tiny niches. And one of the things I think is actually helpful when it comes to us as software developers who are writing content like this is most of the content out there is not written well. When I say we're not written well, it's not written to kind of engage people. It's just a lot of times it's just a couple of quick points and maybe some code examples. The code may be outdated too. That's another common thing in our space. Software evolves rapidly as opposed to almost everything else out there. So an article you wrote 2 years ago maybe needs to get refreshed because there's new features and functionality that are available. So if you wrote say an ASP.NET 5.0 article, maybe you want to kind of repurpose that as a 7.0 article. Now go back through, update what you wrote, add things that have been improved in .NET 7, and republish it. You can essentially redo that on CSharpCorner and make it bumped on the first page again. But that will keep your article fresh, even though it's 2 years old. Now you've got a completely updated one, and you have a decent idea of what people are asking for. In the case of ASP.NET 7, you want to go type in ASP.NET 6.0, see what people were asking there, and then just answer the same questions, but this time in the 7.0 context. So that way you kind of know those people are going to probably have the same questions going forward in that space. So this is a great way to kind of get set up for what to write. There are other clues on the search engines. I've noticed. You'll see this explore further. This looks like on Bing, and these are like other articles that are getting attention. And you can look at what are their headlines and go dive into those articles and see what they're writing about and try to maybe copy what you think are key pieces there. Another thing I've noticed on some this looks like Bing again. If you've got a nice structure of headlines, they will actually display that on the left hand side all the times, and people can go directly to that in your site if you've got it set up correctly. But these are all kind of ways to kind of look at how things might be organized on an additional page and stuff like that. So this is all clues the search engine gives you up front, so you know what to write and how to structure your content immediately. I love something that tells me how to write it. It gives me the outline. Basically, I don't have to think about it. That I like. So.
Yeah. So that's great. So can we also talk about let's talk about the title, right? I know
Mhm.
you always mention the title, and Anup also has a question here that
Yeah,
even having emojis in the title helps and all that. So can you
you
talk
read my
briefly?
article, didn't you? Yeah, that's actually I call it a bonus tip kind of thing. Um, if you know how to type the emoji character codes, or you can copy and paste them from different places, that's kind of a trick to get in there. It used to work a little better because the search engines would actually uh, display that emoji in the search results. I think they've taken that out though.
Yeah.
But that was a trick that worked really well 4 or 5 years ago because it gave you color on a essentially a monotone search result page, right? And you've got those emojis, and that really brings the eye to your article, right? So you're looking for those little key things to kind of drive the eye to your article to help that click through rate. Okay.
But can you add more to the title? I think to me, when you write a
Mm-hmm.
title like exactly similar to a question, like, okay, what is how do I render a Blazor page faster?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you write title, then saying render Blazor faster,
Yeah,
you know,
that's not
talk a
gonna
little
that's
bit
not gonna
more
be
on that.
engaging. It's gonna
Yeah.
be. I'll tell you just off the top of my head the way I do it is 5 ways to make your Blazor uh, render faster. Tip number 4 will surprise you. I mean, that's
Okay.
something I might come up with, right? Um, other I'll talk. Let's talk about a few other tricks. Um,
Yeah.
so is my screen still being shared right now? It looks like it. Yeah.
No. Now it is.
Okay. All right. So I took this little screen snippet off of the CSharpCorner homepage the other day,
Yep.
and I think there's good and bad examples of headlines. Okay. So I said I was going to kind of pick on the CSS gradients, and the reason why I picked it was because it's essentially a two-word title. That's not going to work because CSS gradients is what we call the top level target on this one, right? And that's great. It's targeting that high level thing, but what am I going to learn about CSS gradients if I click on this article? I'm looking
Mhm.
at that going, this page should tell me everything I need to know about this, and this is going to be some amazing piece of content that's going to take me about a half hour to an hour to go through. And you get to it obviously wasn't that's okay. It needs to be more uh, detailed about what it's going to do. Now let's go look at the article, the headline right below it: how to upload any files from PowerPoint apps to SharePoint document library. Well, I think there's some grammatical things about that, but I think that's language problems that we can deal with too. But that was very explicit. It's telling me how to essentially map files from one platform to another platform, and that's a very key thing. I think, especially like a lot of enterprise people need to worry about how do I get these files between these two essentially silos here, and this is going to go into that detail and explain how to do that one specific task that's probably frustrating a lot of people. Now, if they just said power up files to SharePoint or something like that, that's not quite helpful. This is a very helpful title right here, and it's very explicit. Okay. Another thing I would say, put a question mark at the end of that because it is a question, or maybe you're asking how to. Titles with question marks, get a little higher click through rate. I think like 8% is what the studies show. That's kind of an interesting tidbit. Other things that are kind of interesting along the line of emojis. If you put brackets or parentheses around something in your title, that's another way to get eyeballs. Uh, Numbers are also very key. If you've got a list or what we call a listicle a lot of times, you want to say, I've got 9 tips on, like I said, I think I said five ways to improve Blazor rendering speed. Okay, the reason why I said five is because I wanted them to know there's 5 items. Now I may have 6, so what I may say is 5 ways to improve Blazor rendering speed plus a bonus you won't believe. Okay, so now I actually have 6, so that 6th one's that bonus, right? The reason why I said 5, I want to do 5, is because our research also shows that odd numbers get clicked higher rates. So even if you've got an even numbered list, you want to try to create a title of an odd number, and then try to figure out a way to justify that last one, to make it match up. 'Cause you want to promise something, but you don't want to get them there and then the promise doesn't match up. Basically, you want to deliver on the promise effectively. Okay.
Yeah.
You can see another one like down at the bottom, types of API. Okay, I looked at that one because I work on APIs a lot, and I'm like, wow, that's a very broad topic. What am I going to get into with this? Now, some of the stuff they had, I thought was a great setup for a really good article and a whole series of articles, to be honest with you. I mean, I thought it was fantastic, the way things were set up. But we need more explanation. What am I going to do? What is going to entice me to click on that article? Now, the one right above it, the what are CSS counters? I looked at that and go, I don't know what CSS counters are. And it's actually something fairly new. It's very useful. But I would probably expand that out. What are CSS counters and why they're important to make your website better, or something like that. Try to stretch it out. So another thing research tells us is that longer titles get higher click-through rates. Okay, so I'm going to say the sweet spot, say 10 words, but that's a mushy 10 words. So you could say it's 8 to 14 words, and there's no one size fits all to getting a title right. Okay, now there are some tools that I like to play with that are a lot of fun. Like this one, if you look up headline generator, you'll find a bunch of them out there that are free. This is one that used to be like a little chalkboard thing. It's really cool. They made it more boring, but it's okay. The headlines are fun, right? So I just typed in CSS gradients, and it keeps coming up with, it just randomly generates these like interesting headlines. It's got a whole formula that randomizes stuff. So you could sit there and just hit that see another title, and you'll get all kinds of variations. Really get your brain thinking of how can I actually present this topic. So here's another one. See, that's a really good compelling thing, to kind of pull somebody in, right? And you can plug this in. Some of them won't make any sense at all, which is perfectly fine. But you can go through there and have it generate 20 or 30, and you'll eventually find 3 or 4 that kind of match what you're trying to do. But it keeps you from having to think too hard, I think. And there's some of them that'll just automatically drop like 20 versions of headlines and stuff for you. So I like these free headline generators just to at least take care of the creative side, because I've gone ask software developers and things like this, we're not necessarily creative when it comes to something like making a title. So if you can find a tool that helps, especially ones that are free, this is great. I use this kind of tool and stuff a lot when I'm trying to create something title.
What's that tool?
It's called a portent list idea generator.
Okay.
If you just look up headline generator, this should come up.
Okay. All right. So I have a couple of questions, right? Raj Kumar says, I know he's basically asking, can we have is it keywords, right? When we add keywords, should that be a part of the title and description, or both?
Yes, yes, and yes.
So I guess,
yeah, you want to make sure your keywords are prominent. H1, H2, H3 tags, those are what we call semantic importance, but also having them in the content. You got to have it in the content, and it doesn't have to be the exact keyword. So one of the tricks to good SEO, let's say I want to rank for CSS gradient backgrounds. Okay, that's something that article needs to try to target, right? Well, there's probably 100 to 500 other search phrases that are essentially there for the picking, to go out and try to get listed on the first page. I want to try to get as many keywords as possible for my articles to rank for. When I'm doing research, and it doesn't have to necessarily be developer, it could be anything. I see a lot of top articles that will rank for as many as 5 to 10,000 keywords. and all those keywords are trickling in traffic over time, and essentially getting your brand awareness out there as well. Here's a stat: the headlines with numbers right there, 36% better click through rate than other headlines, and then another one like how-to headlines. Those are all better click through rates, right?
Yeah, yeah, but keep in mind, if your article or blog doesn't have numbering, or
Yeah,
you
you
don't
don't
need
feel
to
like you
put
have to have a
number.
number in it,
You
but
don't need to post number all the time. What I mean?
yeah. But if you're writing a how-to article,
Yeah,
like we probably will be doing with software development, like if I've got an article on how to use CSS gradients, for example, I may
yeah.
have 5 examples. So maybe I've got how to use CSS gradients effectively with, and in parentheses, 5 killer examples, something like that.
Yeah.
Then yeah, a lot of times, I mean, most of the articles I see have at least 3 or maybe 4 ways of actually getting the topic explained visually, like with code or whatever. So yeah,
Okay.
in software development, I think it's a lot easier to get numbers in there because we've got different things we're covering. Yes.
Good, good. Yeah. So we have to keep rolling. We have more questions here. So Pranav
Yeah.
asked, what's the role of a key phrases in tags for article highlights? Can we bring tags or good English wording for better SEO?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh, so I mean, you always want to have your target keywords sprinkled in there naturally.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Multiple
now,
times, I guess, including headings and subheadings, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to say, yeah, the English, at least the reading, the English is important. So this is a free tool. It's called the Hemingway app. And if you just look up Hemingway app, you'll find it. And literally, you can just paste your text right there, and it will immediately give you essentially a score, right? And generally, you want to target what we call grade 6. I don't know how grades work in India, but grade 6 is like the middle here in the US. Uh, but it'll also point out exactly where you've got things that you might want to go fix. For example, I'm really bad using passive voice, and I think most writers are. And when I've written books and stuff, that's what the editors have given me the most grief on too. This tool really eliminates passive voice for me quite easily because it really identifies it and it'll take it out. Like I just used really, I think twice. It would point that kind of out to me in the writing, and I could go back and make it clearer. I also tend to ramble, and it also helps me get a lot more concise. So
Okay.
instead of writing 10,000 words, I may wind up with 8,000 words saying the exact same thing, and that's
Yeah.
more efficient.
So we have
So
another question from Recom. It says, does adding bullet points makes it different in search optimization?
it does. It helps the spiders know, essentially understand the structure of your document. But I would also say it's better for readability. People like to scan stuff, so having H2, H3 subheadings in your article is very important because people need to have that scannability to find key points they're looking for. List, whether numerical or bullet point, are also very key because they're usually highlighting what are key pieces to the whole piece of content. So if you have a way to put that in there, another thing I think is common for software development is we can create tables with like say a class properties list and a description of what those properties are. We may not be writing the article about all of those, but it might be good to include a table of those things. And I wouldn't say go copy and paste from the Microsoft documentation. You can use that as a base, but uh, describe the properties and stuff more in your terms. Take ownership of what you're writing. Don't what we call plagiarize. I saw a stat. I was kind of looking at stuff the other day from a recent presentation. One of the Google search engineers saying that 60% of the internet is duplicate content, and it's the exact same thing duplicated.
Yeah.
And so they try to only show the original source and try
Yep.
to keep out the what they call the duplicate content or plagiarized stuff in
Yeah.
essence. So yeah, you want to kind of when I get those things because and I got that habit when I got the book when I started writing books. The editors were like, you cannot say exactly what's on the Microsoft documentation page because we do not want to risk getting dinged for plagiarization. You have to rewrite every one of those definitions,
Yeah.
no matter what I did. So I always do that now with content. So
Okay, so there's another question is from Pranav, and we can combine those two. Is rather than writing questioning kind of title, isn't better to write simple code kind of title?
Well,
Uh,
again, there's no exact answer to what's going on, but you have to think what's going to cause people to click on things.
mm-hmm.
And a question may not be the right way, right for that title, for that article. It could be, it may not be.
Yeah.
Um, so there's, like I said, there's no one exact way to do it, but you do want to uh, kind of entice people. You got to think mentally clickbait. I think the best thing I've ever read about the title stuff is, would a tabloid magazine use it to get people to buy it in the checkout at the grocery store?
Yeah.
And they say that what they do is they actually save all the covers of every tabloid that they can find images of online, just to see what the clickbait title is, effectively, to get people, to actually buy the magazine in the checkout line. And
Yeah.
you kind of want to do that. You just don't want to bait and switch. You really are trying to make a promise to make their whatever better, and you
Yeah.
have to deliver on that in your content too. So
Yeah.
don't
So
don't.
next, yeah, next question I want to talk about the content size. And Rikam also asked here is any
Mhm.
comments on paragraph length. So can we talk about the size of the content, which
Yeah.
consumers prefer? That's important, right?
Okay, so statistically, longer content does better because people will share it more. It also gets more inbound links. Links are a big key to SEO, especially if you're in a competitive niche. So, so there's no exact science for what's the perfect link for anything. It honestly depends on the topic. It could be 500 words. It could be 5,000 words. I've written several articles that are 10,000 words. It doesn't guarantee they're going to do well, uh, but um, it will help. Now, you have to put some energy into getting things promoted and stuff as well. But if you're going to spend the time to write a 5,000 word article, I hope you're going to spend a little time trying to get other people interested in that thing. And hopefully, if you get a lot of friends reading the article, they're going to go on LinkedIn and Twitter and whatever, and also try to share as well. And that's going to get you a little bit of attention. Now, search engines do not use social media shares as a signal, and that's because so much of that is bots and paid for traffic promoting stuff online. So they basically ignore anything on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn as far as energy. What they do look at, and this is one of the things, because everybody pretty much uses Chrome or Bing or Edge for a browser. Those browsers actually report telemetry back to the head office, so to speak, on how long did somebody spend on a page? Did they scroll down? What were they focused on? That kind of telemetry actually goes back and is used by Microsoft and Google in their ranking algorithm. So if let's say the number one result in your key target averages a minute on the page, but your article gets a 1/4% higher click through rate than the one listed above it, and they're spending 10 minutes on your page, those are usability signals or user signals that the search engines will use. So if you've got content on your page that keeps them engaged and keeps them coming back, that's what you're looking for. And that's one of the reasons why the longer content tends to do better, especially over time, is because people are engaged more with it. So
Yeah.
I actually had a conversation with Fabrice Cannell. He's actually in charge of how content gets ranked on Bing at Microsoft. And he said one of the problems on my page, the pages that I needed to improve, was I needed to get people to stay on the page longer. He said, if you do that, you will start dominating the search even more. And
So search
so,
engines look for the how much time people spend on your article. That's
exactly.
a good tip. So you have to
Yeah.
write something that's engaging and people are reading longer. Let's
Yeah.
take more questions. We
I
have a
mean,
lot more questions.
if nothing in your target keyword niche really has a lot of content,
Yeah.
really you can kind of dominate a little better if you just write a nicer article.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big key. I think our niche, our software development niche, there's a lot of stuff that's easy to jump over just because the quality of content isn't there. So
Yeah. So let's take a few more questions. A lot of questions. Great questions coming up. But thank you so much, everybody, asking all these questions because they're very good questions. So, what are the things audience like most about content technical writing?
there's no one answer to a question like that.
Yeah.
Um, I always look at what like I pointed out, the ASP.NET 7.0 is still chaos. There's
Yeah.
no clear signal as to what people are looking for yet. But if you go to a lot of other, I would say, more mature topics, you will see what people are looking for. So if you see search results and everybody's got, like a list of things to match that keyword, then you probably want to write a list article, something like that. If it's a how-to set of things, if they're phrased like that, then you want to try to do a how-to kind of thing. So if there's a clear signal from the actual ranked, and you don't have to stop at the first page, you can look at the top 30 results and whatnot, and kind of see what is actually getting funneled to the top. That's a clear signal of what to write for that topic. So writing about CSS gradients is more artistic than writing about uh, transferring files between Power Apps and SharePoint. That's totally different type of audience right there. But they're
Uh,
both technical, right?
yeah. So the another question from Pranav is, and then we will take the last question. Important. The first phrase in 2-3 lines is article important. This is a yeah. That's I always wonder the same. Like
Hmm.
when I'm have a title with key phrases, should I also include in the introduction part? Yeah,
That's
it's a
generally
great
the
one.
consensus, is you want to make sure that key phrase A is in the title somehow, and also early on in your content.
Yeah.
There,
In-
I don't know off the top of my head if I've seen any research that kind of points to it was included in paragraph 5 rather than paragraph 1, kind of stuff. But generally, you want to emphasize the keyword up front, and you want to sprinkle it a few more times in the article.
Yeah. And then next one is the good, it's a great question about images. Does the adding images make sense? Good article. And also, is it better to have multiple images or one, GIF
Hmm.
file showing all images?
Yeah. Can you show the screen? Absolutely. Okay. Artwork is great, and our space source code snippets are also effective. You won't see that mentioned in the content marketing world because they don't understand code snippets, but they do understand images, illustrations, embedding videos that are related. Those kind of things all help engage people. And so this is a chart done from researching, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of search results, and they found that basically high 90% of the top 9 places on the typical search result had at least one image in the article. So I always, once I kind of picked that up, I started at least going and finding uh, open source or free license stuff. So like Pixabay has always been a place I'll just go find like what I call a hero image to drop on there. So every article I've written for the last 5 years has had a hero image minimal. If I can do screenshots or graphs like this and other supporting images of stuff, it's great. If you're doing software development, you're talking about UI stuff, this is even better because you can take a screenshot of the example code that you're writing. If you're doing backend stuff, I would say source code. You may want to take a screenshot of the command line output, uh, but you can usually find some sort of image to kind of convey the attitude or whatever you're trying to do in there. Like
So
sometimes,
with
like I
that,
did one on looping, and I had like a children's toy with a bunch of loops was the hero image I used.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Is what about the name of the image in the alt tag?
yeah. You want your alt tags to try to match up to your keywords as much as
Yeah.
possible. The image name, you want to try to map it to search phrases you think that image is going to map to. Here's another trick: if you've got original images, artwork on your page, like you've got like a screenshot of something, for example, that's original. Search engines will also rank that in the image search. And another thing that Google and Microsoft folks have both told me is you'd be amazed how people do image searches and they're looking for stuff and they will eventually bounce to your site to see what the context of the image is.
Yeah. Yeah. So we take one more question on images. That is a multiple images better than one, kind of.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
And I think,
there's no right answer there because if you're writing source code thing, the one hero image may be what you got, So that's not going to hurt you. Yeah.
but what could be helpful is if you're writing an article step by step, and each image means
Yes.
different. You can have different name of the image as well as all
Yes.
tag. So Google
Yes.
will, when somebody is searching images, Google will find that.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember the article I shared with you that I found on C Sharp Corner the other night about she was using the Web3 JS and doing Ethereum DApp
Yes.
applications.
Yeah.
I think she had a lot of good screenshots in her article, and I
Yeah.
think that helped me kind of stay with the article, because one of the things you got to do is you write the stuff. You have to essentially make promises and prove the point. Okay, so I started off this presentation showing you that graph of the traffic on my site over the course of the year compared to the
Yeah.
previous year, because I wanted to prove to y'all that this stuff works. Okay, and that, to me, that's the chart that really shows that this effort makes a huge difference, especially over time. So
Yep. So MD asked question, which are the important things that help to rank article in Google first page? That's all, everything we're talking.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is everything. This, yeah.
yeah, it's there's no perfect answer. There's 10,000 small things you can do. What you have to do is you have to kind of say, okay, I'm going to focus on these 10 high level pieces for me right now, and I'm going to get really good at these things. So the first place I would start is finding the right topic to write about. Okay, if I'm found this cool way to do a CSS gradient, well, I want to look in how are people looking at CSS gradients and try to frame my cool thing inside that context. Then I'm going to try to write a cool title, and
Yeah.
those are the first things I'm going to challenge myself to get better at. You can't get better at everything immediately. Pick one thing, focus on it a week or two, and get better at that one thing, and then it becomes more natural, so you can move to the next thing and layer those skills just like you do your software development. And
Yeah.
over time, you will build more and more impact. And you can always go back and rewrite articles. That's the one
Yeah.
thing I don't like about video. I can't go back and redo a video, especially on YouTube. They don't let you do that. So
Yeah. I'm rewriting my old articles on just general topics. Um,
yeah, and honestly, that helps bump your search engine stuff up, because they love when something's been refreshed. They look at it as brand new content.
yeah. So Anup asked, which tool do you use recommend for grammar checking, like Grammarly?
Yeah, there was another tool I used besides Hemingway called AutoCrit. I still have a subscription to that.
Any
And
free tools? Any
Yeah,
free tools?
yeah. The Hemingway's free. That's why I love. That's why I
Okay.
kind of use Hemingway more than anything, and it's easy to use.
Yeah.
AutoCrit really can get really detailed, and I think the Grammarly stuff can too. I think Grammarly and AutoCrit both have plugins for Word. I don't like writing my articles in Word. I write them in Notepad using Markdown syntax, and then I drop them into my actual editor. I don't like to edit things online, because I think Notepad helps me stay focused on what I'm writing more too. But that's just my personal process.
Yeah.
So
So we'll take one more question because we are running out of the time, but this has been really great. How to make content impressive, which will make people even in future to refer.
I mean, you can look at the research. I mean, like I said, longer content has a longer lifespan, and that's because I think personally, it's because when you've got, say, a 5,000 word article, there's usually some key point that a lot of people are looking for, and that key point can be different for everybody. So you want people sharing your content for what makes them excited. So you may have 4 or 5 key things that keep getting your content shared. And ideally, you want links back to your content. I think in the developer space, that is very difficult to do because developers don't like to link to other things. That's another pro tip, by the way, is linking to authoritative sites, external linking to stuff. So if I'm writing about CSS gradients, maybe I want to link to the CSS gradient specification, the W3C or whatever it is for that particular specification, because it gives me credibility. And research also shows linking to stuff like that will help your search engine ranking, because it just helps bolster your content as being legit. You're always trying to be that subject matter expert on stuff. So yeah, there's no right formula for everything for making
Yeah.
impressive content. Yeah, just
Yeah, this is great. This is great. A lot of questions. Thank you everybody for asking amazing
oh yeah,
questions. This has been
glad
the
to.
most
Yeah.
questions ever we have got in the show. So here's a good part for everybody watching. Chris and I, we are working on a very detailed article, kind of tutorial for C Sharp Corner authors.
Mhm.
All these points will be in there. We will also embed this video in there, Chris.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
this
That
video
helps to
will
rank.
Yeah, this video we will publish on YouTube on NC Sharp Corner videos, as well as on the show, and then we'll embed this in the article as well. And any last thing you want to tell people about this um, before we close down the show?
Well, I don't know. I would just say when you get done with content, you want to be proud of it. Whether anybody reads it or not, make sure that it's something you feel good about. I started writing stuff because I honestly was starting to write things so I could remember how I solved problems. And then I started publishing them online. And that was back in like 2004, somewhere back in there. Um, so when I tend to come up with topics, a lot of times I'm looking for what people are looking for, but I'm also really writing to solve my own problems and put those out there. And I'm trying to essentially repurpose my solution into something bigger.
Okay, that's great. So amazing. So guys, what we will do is we are going to actually working on a detailed article on the same topic, which we will publish probably soon next week. And with this video, you want to go watch back this video. It will be available on YouTube as well, and also on C Sharp Corner videos and our live shows. So thank you so much for everybody asking these amazing questions and hanging out with us. This was great, and thank you, Chris. This was very insightful. Hopefully our audience learned something from it. And yeah, I'll see you everybody next week, same time. Thank you.